Back-to-back wins for the first time in 2 months. The Vancouver Canucks beat the St. Louis Blues 5-2 to kick off their 3-game road trip in style. We're breaking it down on Rink Wide Vancouver. We welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a night that sees the Vancouver Canucks defeat the St. Louis Blues by a score of 5-2. I'm Jeff, and I know that you're Irf, but who are those guys winning back-to-back for the first time since November 29th and December the 1st? In fact, you got to go back a week earlier than that to find the last time the Vancouver Canucks have won consecutive games in regulation time. But they followed up their 2-1 win over the Washington Capitals with a 5-2 victory over the St. Louis Blues, and the Canucks full value for the victory, and we're here to talk about it on Rink Wide Vancouver, which is a presentation in part of Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you open an account. Hit us up. You see our socials on the live stream, and we certainly will look for your comments and your feedback as this night rolls along. We always tell you about Super Chats. If you want to make sure that your comment or your question gets through to us here and gets read on Rink Wide, hit us up with a Super Chat or charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. One step forward, one step back, but they've broken the cycle here, and they've put back-to-back wins together.
Yeah, 13-1-4. I say this because it's the first time they've scored 4 goals in quite some time.
Yeah.
This Vancouver Canucks team. First time in 3 weeks, and they end up scoring 5 here against the St. Louis Blues. But an all-around good performance from the Vancouver Canucks. I think it was something that you can build off of from that Washington game. Solid in all facets of the game. Kevin Lankinen made some pretty good saves when he had to.
Got an assist.
Offense was there. Defense was there. Special teams was there as well. So when all 3 of those things click, and it's a team that, Jake DeBrusk said in a pregame interview, it's a 4-point game, quote-unquote, must win. They went out and took care of business.
Yeah, they're 22-17-10 now on the season, so 54 points, and their 13th road win of the year. Look, it didn't look all that great certainly the last road game in Edmonton, but you all of a sudden start moving in the right direction here. You pick up 4 points in your last 2 games. Canucks are now back within a point of the Calgary Flames. They're only 4 points behind the Los Angeles Kings, who lost in Detroit earlier on this night as well. So, again, it shows what can be done if you can string some wins together here. Now they'll move on to Nashville, and they'll see if they can push this win streak to 3 games, dare to dream, on Wednesday night. You mentioned all the things that happened for the Canucks and went right. You know what I would add to the list?
What?
Got a couple of bounces and things to go their way. The goaltender interference call early.
Yep.
And Nils Höglander takes a double minor for high sticking that doesn't get called in the moment. The referees congregate at center ice, and then they got the right call. I mean, his stick gets Robert Thomas. It's a 3-1 game at that point. If the Blues score on both of their power plays, tie game. If they score on one of them, they're within 1, and instead Tyler Myers makes a nice breakup at his own defensive line, sends Pia Suter in on a breakaway, and you just talk about guys that haven't scored in forever. Pia Suter at the top of that list. First goal in 24 games, but he snapped it home, a short-handed goal. And so, I just thought there were 2 really big turning points. The coach's challenge that takes the St. Louis goal off the board, and the Canucks score on the ensuing power play there to make it 2-0, give themselves a little breathing room. And J.T. Miller on the power play midway through the second period. What a pass from Quinn Hughes, although it wasn't the best pass of the night from Quinn Hughes.
No.
We'll talk about that, but J.T. Miller up the gut, and when we talk about guys that haven't scored, that need to score, I don't know what it is. Something about Prime broadcast that bring out. JT had the 2-goal, 2-assist, the 4-point night in Montreal. The last time they were on prime time for JT Miller to get his 9th goal of the season.
Yeah, and end up in a fight, took a beating or 1 punch from.
Yeah, the fight didn't last too long.
From Shen, and I mean he took it. He took the fight, didn't need to, but something he obviously did. Look, there's a lot of guys that got off the schneid a little bit when it came to goal scoring for the Vancouver Canucks, some much needed ones. You mentioned Garland, Miller, and Suter. Obviously, there's still some guys that need to. I think that when you look at it as a whole, Jeff, Rick Tocchet talks about his intangibles and those things and guts and everything. Like, they were good in those areas. Like, they were good in the middle of the ice. They didn't make too many mistakes. I know we both hated the Hoglander penalty because it was a careless use of the stick, and then it ends up calling later in the game, a little bit later after he did that. But for the most part, like, this was a solid hockey game, solid road win. And when you score 5 goals and you're getting pretty good goaltending, you're going to win most nights.
Yeah, and Lankinen, a career high now for him, 18 wins before the end of January, so he's just going to add to his total and jack his rate up, and we kind of joked. I mean, everybody was getting in on the scoring. Why not Lankinen? He gets an assist on that JT Miller goal that came in the second period. That one stands up as the game winner, so Lankinen gets a helper on the game winner. I thought when the Blues got their goalie out at 4-2 with 4.5 minutes to go, I thought, hey, like, this is you got a 2-goal lead, you got all this time where we're going to see Lankinen take a shot at the empty net. Connor Garland tried a couple, looking for the hat trick. Ultimately, it was Tyler Myers that seals the deal into the empty net for the Vancouver Canucks, and Myers back in the lineup. I guess it begs the question, was this the best defensive formation that the Vancouver Canucks have iced all season long? Myers with the 3-game suspension. He's back. You got Philip Hronek, who missed all of that time. DPD in the lineup.
What I was about to
and look, the Canucks are 2-0 with DPD. He's 2-0 in the National Hockey League. Got the bad bounce that went in off him. So still looking for his first goal at the right end of the ice. That one goes in and made it a 4-2 hockey game. But again, not looking out of place at all. And you would think with back-to-back wins that why would you shake things up if you don't have to? And I would imagine they'll come back with this same lineup. Defensive lineup on Wednesday in Nashville. Again, we thought Dakota Joshua might play in this hockey game. They didn't activate him off IR, so he didn't play. We don't know about Kiefer Sherwood. Just know that he didn't make the first part of this trip, but they were hoping that he might catch up to them somewhere out on the road. But the guys that they had at their disposal got the job done, and I agree with you, pretty complete effort start to finish. And I did see, I think, an attempt from a few more guys to get to the interior that Rick Tocchet was lamenting the other night.
Yeah.
Not enough guys getting to the middle of the ice. Connor Garland at the back door. What a pass from Quinn Hughes. When I said the pass to Miller was terrific, but not his best of the night. Just an incredible play by Quinn Hughes. In real time, it just kind of looks like, Quinn Hughes is able to put the puck onto the stick of Connor Garland, tap in on the 2-on-1. When you see the replay and you see Ryan Suter sliding back, face down, and his skates come up just a touch, and Quinn threads the needle, and It's not a fluke. Like, when you see it, you think, damn, like, I don't know how many guys in the league could make that pass, but it was an absolutely perfect pass, just taking advantage of a sliver of daylight, but that's all he needs. And great start for the Canucks. Under 3 minutes into the hockey game, they're on the scoreboard. So setting the tone for the road trip and the night. At 2:52 of the first period, Hughes to Garland. And give Jake DeBrusk some credit. Made the play, took a hit at the blue line to, spring Quinn Hughes. And I don't know about you, Irv, but when you see Quinn Hughes leading the 2-on-1, pretty good chance that something good is going to happen for the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, we laughed, right? And then Connor Garland with his mini stick kind of right there, just being able to get right on the doorstep there. So, yep. I mean, look, great play by all. Quinn Hughes, obviously the vision to be able to know where to put the pass. I mean, most forwards would probably try and toss it over. Maybe gets blocked, but Quinn Hughes knew exactly what he was doing there. So just an incredible play by Quinn Hughes. Obviously, even that's what he does. And obviously, here you see making the pass to JT Miller for the goal. We have a super chat.
I see that.
Yeah, the Blazers fan 22. Mm-hmm. I told you, give DPD a look.
Yeah, a little back patting there from Blazer fan 22.
Well, there's someone else in the chat. I didn't see the name here. It says D undefeated. I don't mind that one.
It's pushing it a little.
I don't mind that one.
We thank Blazer fan 22 for the contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Keep the super chats coming. So Garland opens the scoring, his 12th of the year. That's where the fight off the ensuing face-off, Miller and Shen. And, I don't think of Braden as the fighter of the Shens. That's Luke's job, but we saw at the Winter Classic, got into it with Nick Foligno. And,
Braden can throw him, though.
And JT found out, that
Quick.
Braden can show him as well. And what a first intermission interview on Prime. Braden Shen, not pleased with his hockey club that was down 2-0 after 20 minutes, just basically ripping into his group for another slow start. The Blues have lost 4 or 5, so where it looked like maybe they were breathing down the Canucks' neck, all of a sudden the Canucks put a little distance between them, the proverbial 4-pointer. And look, I've said it so many times, the St. Louis Blues are the definition of average. They just are. Like, they don't do anything particularly well, just across the board. They're an average hockey team. On talent alone, the Vancouver Canucks should be way better than St. Louis Blues, but we all know how they've arrived at this point. Whatever the case, they beat the Blues. They'll be back in St. Louis one more time. And St. Louis beat the Canucks in overtime here in Vancouver back in mid-December in Thatcher Demko's first game of the season. So they've each got a win now in the other team's building. And then the Canucks will kick off I think it's a 5 or 6 game road trip that takes them through New York. But the first game of that trip is in St. Louis. So one more game to go here in the regular season series between these two teams. Garland makes it 2-0. We talked about let's get into that because I have given up. I've given up. When coaches challenge for goaltender interference, I just don't know. Like, I go for a walk and come back and find out what the result was. In this case, I thought, when I saw it at first glance, I was like, nah, that's going to stand. That's a goal. Dylan Holloway goes through the crease. He gets a bit of a bump from Quinn Hughes, and then Quinn Hughes gets thrown to the ice by Braden Shen. We're watching it here, the replay on the live stream. Like, Holloway's in the blue paint, without a doubt. But I don't know. Like, I wasn't sure that there was enough interference there, and it's a bang-bang play. But the Canucks, they get a fortunate bounce, as we said. The Blues decided to challenge, and it's called
the
no
overhead
goal.
view is wild. Like, look, the Canucks end up winning this game, and it's nothing but the Quinn Hughes literally pushes him into the goaltender.
Now, the guys in the war room, the official ruling from the National Hockey League was that Holloway was entering the blue paint, and they don't see the Quinn Hughes, or at least they don't look at it. The explanation from the league is the Situation Room supported the referee's call on the ice that Dylan Holloway entered the crease and made contact with Kevin Lankinen, which did not allow him to play his position. So not only does the goal not count, but it's a failed challenge, and the Canucks went right back to the power play. Connor Garland sneaking in. You talk about mini sticks. We saw him score the overtime winner in Buffalo.
Similar.
Not so much as similar, because that one he was spinning around and through his legs, but basically from the same distance, puck in the blue paint, and Connor Garland sniffing around. JT Miller had an assist at one point, but they took it away. I guess they figured that Elias Pettersson got a stick on it somewhere in the scramble. Whatever the case, puck gets through Jordan Binnington, and there was Garland, ultimate garbage goal. I laughed because on NHL.com, for every event, every shot in the game, they have the length of a shot, how far from goal. And Connor Garland's first shot, the backdoor little tap in, was 5 feet, they said. This one was 2 feet. So a total of 7 feet of goals for Connor Garland. It doesn't matter where they come from, long distance, in tight, they all count. And Garland gets his second 2-goal game of the year. The other one was in Buffalo. He had scored a power play goal earlier and then capped it in overtime. So second 2-goal game for Connor Garland, his 13th of the season from Pettersson and Besser. And 16 minutes into the hockey game, Canucks found themselves up 2-0 like they did the other night against the Washington Capitals, where they couldn't build on that lead against the Caps here. They kept the hammer down and were able to extend their lead. So good on them. Didn't really sit back, I didn't think, in the second period. And even the third period, the shots were even. I thought this was a better third period. Not that the Canucks threatened a ton on their own, but I didn't think that they were under absolute siege. Like the Washington game, goal sort of felt inevitable, I think, just with the firepower that the Capitals had. Yes, Colton Parayko does get a goal banking in off DPD, but, like that could have been a bit of a momentum shift in this hockey game, and certainly for a Canucks team that hasn't defended third period leads all that well.
Yeah.
I like the reaction to that, or the lack of reaction. They just head down, keep playing, and see this thing through, and ultimately they're able to win it by a score of 5-2. So no, I like the way they performed in the third period in this hockey game.
Yeah, and they've taken a lot of criticism by us and by a lot of people for not being able to score and also sitting back. right? And letting teams come at them. And they know that's been their Achilles heel for a better part of this season. But when they had their moments, they went up the ice and they were able to do things and create chances. Now, albeit it was a little bit more of St. Louis Blues kind of tilting it, but they didn't break and they didn't completely fold in their own end, which they're prone to doing when having leads in the third period. So it was nice to see that one out. But Kevin Lankinen, I mean, I still think that, Jeff, we talk about goalies and all that, and everyone wants to talk about it in this market, but when he's in net, man, that team just plays a lot different in front of him.
Yeah, I'll get to Lankinen in a sec. I see Michael in the comments saying, WTF, what game did you guys watch? I assume he's talking about the overturned coach's challenge goal. Again, they're just, everybody sees it differently. I just thought it was such a bang-bang play that I wasn't sure that even if Holloway had skated through the crease and hadn't made contact, that Lankinen was getting back across to make the save there. But whatever the case, Canucks got a bit of a I don't know if you call it a break, but something went their way. So, yeah, I think...
Look at the goal that counted in the Edmonton game.
I know. Well, that's
crazy.
I mean, that's my argument right
Michael
there.
Go check out that one. Yeah.
You watch those two, and you wonder how in the world, same league, same night, and one gets called and one doesn't. But for Lankinen, what I liked about his performance, Canucks build him a lead. In the second period, early in the second period, Justin Falk, the defenseman for the Blues, in the slot, point blank, and Lankinen able to stare him down, made a great save there. And on the same sequence, Matthew Joseph driving wide around Quinn Hughes, and then he cut hard to the net. And again, Lankinen standing his ground. When he's on and dialed in, it just makes it look easy. That's what the good ones do. And so I thought, he was really strong the other night against Washington. Not the least bit surprised that they came back with him, gave him the start here. Held up his end of the bargain. And as I said, for him, a career high now, 18 victories. So that's a nice feather in his cap.
No, absolutely. And Kevin going to make banking this season, right? He's just, you look at his value contract season, the situation that he got himself into with the Vancouver Canucks. He absolutely knew that there would be some opportunity here, and he's done everything and more. We talk about where this team would be without Quinn Hughes, and everyone knows that. And where would this team be without Kevin Lankinen at this point this season? That's another thing.
They'd be a lot further from the playoff bar.
Their two MVPs are Quinn Hughes and Kevin Lankinen. It's not even close.
Yeah. And goaltending was a story on the other side here. Yeah. Jordan Binnington gets the hook. It's the first time the Canucks have chased an opposing goaltender all season. Now, a bit of an asterisk there because Cam Talbot in Detroit pulled himself out of the game with an injury, but things weren't going his way. The Canucks were winning at that point, and I don't know if Derek Lalonde was still a head coach there. I'm not sure if he was going to get the hook out, whatever. Talbot took himself out of the game. So there has been a goaltending switch, but in terms of a head coach getting the hook out, after the 3-0 goal, 8.5 minutes into the second, it's a 3-0 game, and Jim Montgomery not messing around. He had seen enough, and out comes Jordan Binnington, to which Gordon McDowell in the chat says, Binnington is our Team Canada starter, and the only concern that I have from this game. And on the same day that Logan Thompson gets paid in Washington, he's not going to be part of Team Canada, but yes, Jordan Binnington. Second regular season loss to the Vancouver Canucks. He came into this one 5-1-2. I was a little surprised at his record because, of course, the Canucks beat him soundly in the bubble playoff series. But as far as regular season goes, Binnington had a pretty solid record against the Canucks, but didn't last this one. Didn't even get to the halfway mark. And the goaltending change, did it spark the Blues? Who knows? But they scored quickly after. Dylan Holloway with his 16th of the year, the one-timer off the right side on the power play. Zipped the puck around a little bit, and there was Holloway, had some time and put it in his wheelhouse. And, again, that's where, kind of like I said about the third period, where things could have sagged for the Vancouver Canucks, but instead it's Pius Suter. Yes, I had to double-check my notes here. Pius Suter hadn't scored since the Canucks came off that 6-game road trip at the start of December, beat Columbus on home ice, and Pius Suter had 2 that night, hadn't scored since. So his 12th goal of the year, but he didn't look like a guy that's gone almost 2 months without scoring. I mean, sent in on the breakaway and made no mistake there, and that was such a big goal. Just the second short-handed goal for the Vancouver Canucks all season. I'm putting you on the spot. Do you remember the other one?
Kiefer Sherwood.
Nicely done. Good recall there.
Bang.
Part of his hat trick
Yes.
against the Colorado Avalanche in December. Yes, so Kiefer Sherwood not in the lineup tonight, but Pius Suter steps in and look, the Canucks went 2 for 2 on the power play. Blues end up going 1 for 5, so win the special teams battle and you win the hockey game. I want to talk more about the power play in a moment here, but let's get to the 3 stars before we go any further. 3 stars as selected by the St. Louis media: Connor Garland, Pius Suter, and Tyler Myers. 2 out of 3, the same here on Rink Wide. We had JT Miller down, but when Myers scored in the empty net, I made an executive decision. We'll start at the top. Look at Garland. 2 goals, 6 shots on goal. Not the team high in shots, though, by the way. We'll come back to that in a moment. But Connor Garland, the first star. Quinn Hughes, what can you say about Quinn Hughes? Just every single night, it's like, really the feature should be 2 other stars in Quinn Hughes. Like, It's like he's burned into our screen here.
He is.
It's just a question of which box is he going to occupy. Most nights it's the first star. Tonight he drops down a peg, but I'm sure he's okay with that. The captain with 2 more points and just keeps on racking up the points. What a season he's having. And I make mention of Myers because he got the empty netter, but he did make the play and gets the assist on the Suter goal. He had 5 shots and played with Quinn Hughes. So, it brings me back to this question about, is this the best defensive alignment that they have had all season? Hughes and Myers. Forbert, kind of quietly going about his business, but he has Philip Hronek there, and then Carson Soucy sliding over to the right side. And DPD is the other defenseman. Vinny Desharnais came out a healthy scratch. And Noah Juleson is back. He's on the road trip. Still on IR, kind of like Dakota Joshua, so they're going to have to activate him. But I wonder, how soon.
I think DPD stays for a little while here.
That's just it. And so you wonder, but you can't keep a guy like Noah Juleson on IR if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And then you have to activate him, and then it becomes roster manipulation. So we'll see how it all goes here. But they may have to get creative. Like, if DPD shows that he deserves to play and you can't take him out of the lineup, then they're going to maybe have to put somebody on waivers to try to get somebody else down to the minors. We'll see what happens there. Getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but there are the 3 stars: Connor Garland, Quinn Hughes, and Tyler Myers. The 3 stars are a presentation of Greta Bar, YVR, and it's probably hopping down there watching the Canucks on Prime. Get to Greta. Do yourself a favor if you're looking for a spot to watch the next game. Highly recommend Greta Bar YVR. You got the big screens, the arcade games, the street food, weekly drink specials, and you got Canucks Army viewing parties that we'll tell you about a little bit later on as well. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. Now, Canucks play-by-play broadcaster Brendan Batchelor had a tweet mid-afternoon that listed in plain view the goal-scoring struggles of so many guys.
Yeah.
And when you saw it, it's just undeniable that, the forwards in this team had gone ice cold. And, so to see Suter score and to see JT Miller score in the first time in a long time, a relief for a few of those guys. I had added on to that tweet that part of the issue was coming into this game, or if the power play had scored twice in the last 8 hockey games. I didn't realize the power play had gone that cold. There's so many issues that one kind of snuck past me. But the 2 goals the power play had generated were both by Quinn Hughes, shocker, and in the same game against Edmonton at home, the win over the Oilers. And so, you got to get the power play going. And it doesn't matter who scores, but if this team's going to have success, you got to find a way to put the hammer down when you get the man advantage. And so something that hadn't happened for far too long for the Vancouver Canucks. And so for them to get 2 here, hopefully a boost. Garland with the power play goal. Miller's not a conventional power. You don't see breakaways on the power play that often.
Very rarely.
But again, St. Louis trying to sneak in the long change in the second period, and heads up play by Lankinen to get the puck to Hughes, and Hughes with the headman pass brings Miller for his 9th of the year. So number 9 gets his 9th goal of the season. But we'll see. How many times have we asked this question about individuals, but collectively as well? Is this enough to jumpstart the group? I'm not sure. The power plays earn the benefit of the doubt, but certainly they'll take their 2 power play goals and move on to Nashville and hope that they can carry on with some of the good stuff working with the man advantage.
Yeah, I think furthering even bigger picture, Jeff, to the man advantage. Yes, it was good in the game, but the fact they kind of get that monkey off their back and getting consecutive wins. Like, to go and do that and to get them in regulation, you have to go all the way back to November, the end of November, to when they won 2 games in regulation consecutively. So I think that for a group like this, who at sometimes with the season seemed and looked very fragile, right? And coach called them out for various different reasons, but to be able to put 2 results in, like you mentioned St. Louis's average, but they're still right there near the playoff bar, right around where the Canucks are, and then you beat the best team in the National Hockey League. So that's got to give you something as they head into Nashville here on this road trip.
Big Mo. They got Mo on their side now. Momentum.
Yeah.
It is wild. Like, you just step back and you think, these guys play every other night. And it had been something like 57 days since they had been able to string back-to-back wins, like the most basic of asks to get consecutive victories, and it's just taken forever, and they've had opportunities and flushed leads, and saw what happened in the Buffalo game last week where it was on a tee for them to get back-to-back wins then, and couldn't get out of their own way. But yes, they have done it, baby steps here, and we'll see what they do as they move on to Nashville, and then, of course, Dallas to wrap up this road trip on Friday night. So, I mentioned that Connor Garland had 6 shots and scored on 2 of them. Quite frankly, a little surprised. I'm not going to lie to you. When I looked at the final stat sheet and the box score and see that EP40 had 7 shots on goal in this hockey game. Like, I just didn't feel he was terribly dangerous here. And I know we're asking for him to do more offensively and to make some things happen. And so I want to give credit where it's due. The fact that he had 7 shots on goal seems like a good step forward. But as I sit here and assess the game, I don't feel like of his 7 shots that there were a ton of grade A scoring chances. But whatever. 7 in a win, again, they're all going in the right category of, good nights. But you do hope. And we said this about Brock Besser a couple of weeks ago when he had 8 shots and said, like, if Brock's getting 8 shots, you want to think that he's going to be able to score on one of them. Same sort of thing here applies to Petey, but 7 shots. We'll see if that's something to build on.
Season high.
Yeah.
Ties his season high for shots for Elias Pettersson. So pretty good.
Yep.
Able to, well, the one thing about that is may not be going in. They may not look dangerous, but at least he's putting the puck towards the net. In a win, I would be more concerned if he didn't shoot at all. Well, like if there was nothing going on and there's no offense, I think. But he's able to get the puck to the net, and they're credited him with 7. I agree with you. Not many of them look dangerous, but he still did it. I think that's what you want.
No, for sure. And that's why I say, I don't want to sound like I'm dumping on the guy because he didn't score. 7 shots on goal means you have the puck in a shooting position 7 times in the offensive zone. All of those types of things. Still don't love the fact that they've got him playing with a 3-goal scorer and a guy still looking for his first National Hockey League point. Not sure that that's going to be the jump start, but hey, 7 shots. Maybe it is something to build on for Elias Pettersson. Again, when I look at the line combinations, they don't scream that they're going to be successful. I don't love the fact that Jake DeBrusk is playing with Pia Suter, who, again, just hasn't generated much in the way of offense. I thought DeBrusk had the assist on the opening goal, but, it's now 10 games without a goal for him, so you certainly want to see him going again. And, Danton Heinen playing on where he started the season with JT Miller and Brock Besser, and I don't love the idea of Danton Heinen, as given the season that he's had, occupying a role in the top 6. But it's kind of hard to figure out what is the top 6 with this current formation, but hey, it was enough to get 5 past a couple of St. Louis Blues goaltenders. So again, you don't ask too many questions on a night like this one, and take the victory, take the back-to-back wins, and move on to Nashville. All right, let's get to the stat that stands out.
Let's do it.
Because we talked a moment ago about the 3 stars and Quinn Hughes doing what he does so often. Primary assists on the Garland goal to open the scoring, and then the primary assist on the Miller goal as well. So 2 more points for Quinn Hughes, up to 56 points on the season. Or if the guy's played 410 NHL regular season games, and this was his 100th career multi-point game. So 1 of every 4 games for Quinn Hughes in the National Hockey League, multiple points.
The only defenseman in franchise history to reach that feat. And we always talk about Quinn Hughes and shattering records and breaking records. When it's all said and done, if Quinn Hughes remains a Vancouver Canuck for his entire career, no one will ever catch the records that he will finish with. Like 43 is going straight to the rafters. Like it will be something to be seen, and it'll be something that'll be historic on an NHL level as well. For a player of this caliber and his caliber to be putting up points and playing in the way and affecting the game in such a positive way, it's going to be insane to see when it's all said and done.
All right, another super chat. This one from Blue Line Bar Down, running the Lankinen numbers for us. He says 14th overall in goals against average and 20th now in save percentage. Starting goaltender. Yes. Again, I'm not at a point where the Canucks have to designate him as their starter. We said the other night, win and you're in, and I stick to that, and they did as well. He was good against Washington. He got the start here.
Yeah.
Demko had 4 in a row. It didn't go so well for him. Lankinen had the flu in there as well, so that was part of that. But I'm coming back with him. Former Nashville Predator, an opportunity to go into Nashville. Don't fix what ain't broke now.
I'm coming back with him every game until he plays himself out of not being able to play.
I know the Prime broadcast kept saying, run him right through the Four Nations face-off. I don't think he's going to get – there's 7 games to go.
Well, then he's got to go play there. Well, he might not play, but he'll be there.
Got to go.
And,
we're going to see Demko again. They're not going to hide Thatcher Demko, but I do think in the short term here, you got a little bit of good vibes going. Yeah, just roll with Kevin Lankinen. But to Blue Line Bardown's point, I mean, if 32 teams, so 32 starting goaltenders, if you're 14th in goals against average and 20th in save percentage, then yes, I mean, that certainly would seem to meet the qualifications to be a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League. So we'll see where it goes. There was another one here, Nar in the chat saying, another goalie controversy in Vancouver. Nature is healing.
It's not a controversy.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Because you don't have both goalies that are playing extremely well every time you put them in. You have a guy that they gave some runway to in Thatcher Demko, and they gave him a chance to kind of find his game. And unfortunately, things didn't go so well for him. But the way that Kevin Lankinen's playing, he is the guy now, right? And I think that, like we've talked about it on Saturday night, it's win and you're in. So you fight to play another game.
I mentioned it's a career high 18th win of the season for him. So he's 18.
Huge.
He's 18-8-6 for the Vancouver Canucks, and this is a team that has 22 victories, and he has 18 of them. Is that Demko's got 3 and Silov's had 1.
Yeah.
So it's been unbelievable. He's been a terrific story, and it's really going to be fascinating to see how ultimately it does play out, and whether it's here in Vancouver or if he goes elsewhere as a free agent in the offseason, and what can he command. There's no way that he's missing the market for a second straight year. But we'll see how it all shakes down for Kevin Lankinen. And all he can do is just continue to build his resume here and be ready when it's time to negotiate again, whether it's with the Canucks or with some other team. Box Van Go in the chat says, my flabber was gasted. He's talking about the overruled call, the coach's challenge in the first period. So, again, and if people, I'm glad you brought up that Seattle goal in Edmonton, because if you watch them side by side,
it's wild.
How you could possibly tell how one goal would count and one wouldn't. Welcome to the National Hockey League. All right, Sapporo J says, let's talk to Brusque. Simply as advertised? Whew. I mean, there was talk that he was a streaky scorer.
Yep.
We have absolutely seen that. First 9 games of the season without a goal, and then couldn't be stopped in November when he was among the league's leaders in goal scoring.
Scored every game in California on that road trip.
Yeah, that got him started.
Scored in Boston.
Incredible month of November. And then, started to cool down a little bit in and around December, but, scored the first game out of the Christmas break. And then he scored the last time they were on Prime as well. Power play goal in Montreal. That's it, though. That's the last time that Jake DeBrusk has scored for the Vancouver Canucks. Being paid $5.5 to put pucks in the net. Now, he still leads the team with 17. Just past the midway mark, he's on pace for 30. That would be a career high. It's just, it is sort of crazy to watch the wild swings of momentum for him. My concern, I guess, is that the goal in Montreal was in the power play. So as I look here, that's his only goal in the last 14 hockey games. Hasn't scored a 5-on-5 goal for the Vancouver Canucks since the game out of the Christmas break against the Seattle Kraken.
It's tough for him. He's got an assist. you're not going to score if you don't shoot. And there's been so many nights where you and I sit here and do these shows, and you look at the Jake DeBrusk stat line, and it's a 0 under shot. So if you're not shooting the puck, are you at least getting yourself into areas where something's going to find you and go off you and hit you? And, he's a big boy. Like, there's a reason why they brought him here, was to be the guy to go and crash and bang and play on Elias Pettersson's line and be that tough guy and get to the dirty areas and all that. But more often than not, we're sitting here and the guy's got a 0 in front of him under the shot category.
But that comes back to right now, he's got Pia Suter as his center at 5-on-5, and Pia Suter's doing absolutely nothing in terms of offensive generation at even strength. He scored the shorthanded goal tonight, so credit to him there. But just in terms of the run of the play, 5-on-5, there's just not a whole lot happening unless Quinn Hughes is out there, serving it up for these guys as he did on the opening goal, because Garland is the other winger on that line. It's Suter with Garland on one side and DeBrusk on the other, and that's where I say it's kind of, square pegs and round holes and guys that don't necessarily fit. And your leading goal scorer is not on the first unit power play. And I know the power play scored twice tonight, so maybe tonight's not the time to bang the desk here, but that just doesn't make sense to me, that the guy that has scored more goals than anybody else on the team isn't on your first unit power play. So that's going to be hard for him to add to his total as well, because the second unit doesn't see much ice time, and there's not a ton of high-end offensive firepower on that second unit either.
Yeah, I mean, look, they won the game. But you asked a question about Jake DeBrusk, and we're talking about it as we see it. And again, this is one of those games where the facts are right in front of us. And, he picks up an assist, no shot on net. He had 2 hits, gave a puck away twice, and lost a faceoff. Like that was Jake DeBrusk's stat line, 15:46 of ice time. And, had a pregame interview that was decent, said it was a must-win game, and they ended up doing that. I think the line thing is an interesting one, because his center and who it is, like, it's worked now for 2 games. It's, I don't want to say more balanced, but it's different. And I think that if they're going to load up, they have the opportunity to do it, because you can just move guys in and around different spots. But like the Elias Pettersson with, Niels Höglander and Linus Karlsson, like, how long is that one really going to last, the all-Swedish line? At some point, you're going to have to reunite Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson, or move Jake up to play with JT Miller and move Brock down. Like, something's got to give here at some point. Yes, they've won the 2 games, but I think the line's is currently assembled. He put it in and it's worked, but we'll see how long it lasts.
Right, and I think one of the things to consider here is we were told that Dakota Joshua was either going to play tonight or the second game of the road trip. Now, winning combination the last couple of games, so we'll see. They do have an open roster spot. They've got 22 on the roster, on the active roster, so there's a spot there. They just have to activate Dakota Joshua if he is, in fact, ready to go. And he had a couple of good skates with the group here over the weekend before they left on the trip. Talked to him on Sunday. He's excited. He wants to get back in there. This is his 11th game. He hasn't played since he was injured against the Nashville Predators, so maybe he gets a chance to come back against the Preds. If he does, though, like Max Sasson barely played in this hockey game, 7 minutes and 46 seconds. I think he probably would be the guy that comes out. But then it's, where does Dakota Joshua slot in? Does Connor Garland go back up and play with Pettersson and Höglander? If so, then Karlsson's got to go somewhere, or maybe Karlsson comes out and Sasson stays in, and Dakota Joshua could play on that third line with Suter. So Rick Tocchet and his coaching staff are going to have some decisions to make here. And we saw it earlier in the season, different situation for Dakota Joshua, but when he came back in November, just didn't really launch, wasn't able to make any sort of impact. I wonder if it's going to be different now. Again, he missed 11 games. Like, that's a substantial amount of time. Are you better to insert him lower in the lineup and allow him to sort of, phase his way back in? And that's probably the way that I would lean.
I think the one thing that's going to be exciting for Rick Tocchet and the Vancouver Canucks here, Jeff, is for the first time, hopefully for their sake, it happens on this road trip, they finally get their full allotment of the entire team that Patrick Alvin envisioned and built in the lineup. Now, maybe Vinny Desharnais isn't in it, but everyone's going to be healthy and available. So if it doesn't happen Wednesday, in Nashville, we don't know about Kiefer Sherwood's status yet for that one, but we think Dakota Joshua is going to come back at some point. So that'll be the time to tell what this forward group really can look like and how the lines will go in the blender then.
Yeah, just looking at the ice time distribution, we talked about Sasson was the low man at 7:46. Nils Höglander playing on a line with Elias Pettersson, and Höglander got 10 minutes and 20 seconds of ice time, so not out of the woods. Spent a couple of minutes in the penalty box, as we detailed earlier. But even Elias Pettersson, like EP40, 14 minutes and 24 seconds of ice time. So, that kind of screams third line to me. But it also comes back to this idea of it's hard to know what numbers to put on the lines because there's sort of, an issue with each of them if as constructed. Like EP40 plays 11 minutes and 24 seconds. JT Miller was up near 17, and he sat for 5 in the first period after the fight. So who knows? I mean, it's, again, Rick Tocchet has tried to stretch his forward group a little bit to give them a little bit more balance, and it's working, so I guess he's probably going to stick with it, even if it maybe doesn't look all that attractive. At the end of the night, the results look pretty good to the Vancouver Canucks, and they beat the St. Louis Blues by a score of 5-2. Tocchet called it pretty much a game that they had to have. He didn't use must-win. He called the Washington game the other night a must-win game.
Jake DeBrusk did, though.
That's true, on the pregame interview. And one thing that we haven't talked about.
They should have started calling the must-win games a long time ago if this was going to be the result of them.
They got to get back on prime. They score goals. They, for the most part, win. They didn't win in Montreal, but they got a single point out of that one. They won the game just before Christmas against San Jose. So they're 2-0-1, unbeaten in regulation, picked up 5 of 6 points on these prime broadcasts, and they have one more to go this season, game in New Jersey at some point in the month of March. So the Blues get Joel Hofer, who had come in relief of Jordan Binnington. They get him out of the net with 4:29 to go. In a 4-2 hockey game, we talked about Connor Garland had a couple of chances at the empty net. Then the Blues apply a little bit of pressure, and one of the shots catches Carson Soucy on the foot, knocks his blade flying, and the replay was great. You can see the piece of silver piece of steel flying through the air. Full props to Carson Soucy. Irf, we have seen a lot of guys look like they're never going to get anywhere close to the bench. That,
they got on the knee and they need to be pushed.
Yeah, and
Soucy
play was going on, and it was hard to tell whether he was injured and immobile or if the blade, in fact, had come out. Was trying to toe pick his way. That wasn't working. Then he went with the big leg swing, and it was pretty effective.
The one leg jump squat.
Yeah. Hey, got to the bench, so good on him. No damage done there. They patched up his skate, and away he went. So, you can laugh at those kinds of things because, hey, win the hockey game.
Didn't cost a goal, no.
Yeah.
We, speaking of win, we have the winning captain of the Vancouver Canucks after a 5-2 win in St. Louis. Here's Quinn Hughes.
Win here in St. Louis. Quinn, talk about the team effort in this one that you saw.
Yeah, it was good. I thought we played good defense in the third, and we were ready to go in the first, so lots to like about tonight.
What can you say about the determination from Connor Garland tonight in both of his goals?
Yeah, it was, he brings a lot of compete, and no matter if he's on the score sheet or not, you're gonna feel his impact. So happy for him that he's able to get on the scoreboard tonight, but he's always competing like that and pushing the pace for us.
We talk about this guy a lot, but Kevin Lankinen grabbing his first assist on the team and now a career high in wins. Just what can you say about him?
Yeah, he's been terrific. It's nice for him to get on the score sheet too, I guess. But I can't really say enough about him. He's been terrific all year.
And how important is it for you guys to finally being able to get some momentum, getting back-to-back games for the first time in almost a couple months?
Yeah, really important. Now hopefully we can get something going, and the way we won tonight felt sustainable, so just got to keep going.
How much of an addition was it to have Tyler Myers back in the lineup tonight?
Massive. I mean, his game, you can see how he breaks out the pucks, penalty kill, just solid, defends hard, but, obviously his leadership as well.
What can you say about a happy Quinn Hughes?
It is wild, and I feel good for him. I mean, look, he's front and center. He's the captain. He stands in there. He faces the music, but the game in Edmonton last week, some of the other recent losses, and it looked like somebody had kicked his dog or, whatever. No, it is kind of nice to see a bit of a smile on Quinn Hughes, and you can just sort of feel the relief from the Canucks captain.
Well, and like I said, Jeff, I think just the wins, get 2 wins. And the power play worked. That's a good feeling in itself in the game, but just being able to have that it must have felt like forever for those guys. I mean, we sit here and talk about it every single night, but for them to not be able to do it, I can't imagine how frustrating it has been. And you can see in Quinn Hughes' body language and sometimes in his facial reactions and what he says after the game that he's sure as hell pissed off after losses. But this one, they're going to take it, move on from it, and like you mentioned, the big momentum heading towards Wednesday night.
And, of course, going to a place that they had a ton of success. They won all 3 other games in the playoffs at Bridgestone Arena, so the guys that were on the team last year should feel pretty good walking through the doors of the Nashville Arena for that game on Wednesday. Before we get to Wednesday's game, though, of course, you're going to be keeping an eye on what's going on around the National Hockey League. So let's get to our line of the night, and it's a presentation of Bet365.
Yeah, this portion of the show, Jeff, brought to you by Bet365. Proud partners to Carson Price Canucks Conversation. You and I here at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open account today with Bet365. Bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Hope y'all were listening to me chat on Saturday night. In a gloat for that one. That parlay did hit. We're going big here. 4-game parlay. I like the Buffalo Sabres at home against the Boston Bruins. The New York Rangers against the Carolina Hurricanes. Rangers have been playing pretty well lately. The Islanders over Colorado. Just went with New York. New York there, a little bit of a vibes feel. And I like Washington. They had a few nights here in Vancouver. I think they'll get ready back to business against the Calgary Flames and get back to their winning ways.
I was looking at the schedule, and I saw that both Colorado and Carolina are in the New York area. Like, why couldn't they have just waited a few days and made the trade, and then, like, guys could have just, like, swapped hotels and joined the new teams there rather than... You could have,
well, the flight from Boston wasn't that far.
I know. Yeah. Make travel a little bit easier, but what's done is done, and there's no going back. So for the Vancouver Canucks, they're going to try to march forward here. Just a couple more thoughts on the Nashville Predators in a sec, but we're closing in on the Four Nations face-off. We keep talking about this. For the Canucks, they've got 2 more games here out on the road and then 4 next week. So 6 games still to go before the 2-week break. And if you're already making plans for the Four Nations face-off best on best, can we recommend to you to come watch the Nations with your Vancouver crew? This is all a presentation of Fountain Tire. Don't miss Canada against the U.S. on February 15th at Greta Bar. It's going to be hosted by Sakaris and Price, Rink Wide, and Canucks Army. We've got a raffle with exclusive prizes to be won. It's your chance to party it up and cheer for a once-in-a-lifetime Team Canada. And it's all in support of Social Run Club YVR. Tickets are $10, or you can grab a VIP package, which includes $40, or which for $40 includes a burger, beverage, and an arcade game card. You can snag seating for up to 6 people with those VIP packages. Doors at 4, puck drop at 5 o'clock. It is a 19-plus event. Grab your tickets at nationgear.ca. Again, the website is nationgear.ca. We hope to see you at Greta Bar, 50 West Cordova. Now, look, the Nashville Predators have been one of the biggest disappointments, if not the biggest disappointment in the National Hockey League all season. Been doormats for most of the year, but there are some signs of life from the Preds. They lost in Anaheim on Saturday. They don't play again until the Canucks see them on Wednesday. So they've been off since Saturday. Should be well rested. The loss to the Ducks snapped a 5-game win streak. So they're starting to play better. And if you go back to the 3-0 win against the Canucks here in early January, they have won 7 of their last 10 games. So,
and before that Ducks game, they scored 6 against San Jose, 7 against San Jose, 6 against the Wild, 5 against the Golden Knights. Like, they're a team that can score some goals when they get hot.
Well, and
they give up a lot of goals too.
They're fun. Yeah. No, you're right. Dangerous at both ends of the ice. One of the reasons they're scoring a bunch right now, Philip Forsberg has 9 goals in the last 10 games. Leads the team with 18 goals. Half of his goals have come in the last 10 games. So Philip Forsberg, he is on fire. Their power play running at 33% since January 1, so 1 of every 3. And 12 of their 18 wins on the season. They only have 18 wins, but 12 of them have come on home ice. So, they've beaten the Canucks twice already. Remember when they beat them the second time, 2 of their 4 road wins were in Vancouver. So the Preds have had the Canucks number so far here in the regular season. And, we were charting those games last week against the Sharks, like goals galore. They were down, and then before you knew it, they were up. So, Stamkos is starting to feel it a little bit. Jonathan Marchessault got off to that terrible start, but he's starting to score. But right now, it is Philip Forsberg who is just red hot, and we'll see how things go. I don't imagine that we'll see an awful lot of this side of the Preds. I was a little surprised when I was doing a little homework earlier. They lead the National Hockey League with 24 fighting majors.
The Preds?
Yeah, there's no other team.
I think Stamkos has fought a couple times
There's
this
no
season,
other
yeah.
team that has more than 20, and they've got 24. Michael McCarron, who fought Dakota Joshua here. Luke Shen, still throw him on occasion.
He's probably got 4 under his belt.
I think you're right. I think he is at 4, and then there's just a bunch of others. But yes, the Nashville Predators.
Kevin Lankinen also going back there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I think you stick with him. And for Kiefer Sherwood, I hope he's got the clearance and gets on a flight and is able. Like, I don't know what he left the game in Edmonton. I saw somebody say he blocked his shot. I can't say that that's right or wrong. He just left that game. I saw him in the hallway around the rink on both Saturday and Sunday, but he wasn't on the ice with the group. And then Rick Tocchet said he wasn't traveling, but he might join the team out on the road. If he doesn't get there for Nashville, he's gone back to places that he's played in the past. Like, I don't know. I'm sure he wants to play that game, and they're only there once. So,
well, I think they cannot. Yeah, and
I'm sure he'd be disappointed, but
get healthy.
That's exactly. And that's the other thing too. Like, with no Kiefer Sherwood and no Dakota Joshua in the lineup, I wondered if teams might try to exploit that and push the Canucks. Washington's a big team. But the Canucks were able to get the win there. And this one, outside of the Miller and Shen fight, not a particularly physical hockey game, but, 2 games without 2 of their biggest and most rambunctious forwards. And, didn't hurt the Canucks. They got the results that they're looking for. So, again, we'll see if either Joshua or Sherwood is available for the Canucks on Wednesday when they go into Nashville to take on the Predators. I am curious to see what a goal for JT Miller. Like, how big a relief is that? He would downplay it, I'm sure. But here we sit late in January, and he's got 9 goals on the season. Came close the other night. We wondered, how did he miss that chance early in the second period against Washington? I know on the Prime broadcast, they kept talking about, he's snake bit. It's going to happen for him. And hey, look at that. He gets one here tonight. And the thing is, and I said it about Suter too, JT Miller has scored a lot of goals in this league, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but that did not look like a guy fighting confidence to shoot from that far out on a breakaway the way that he did. And
well, I think that's the thing that you liked about it the most, was the fact that he had that in him and he didn't try and go for a deke and maybe hesitate and do whatever. He did what we're used to seeing what JT Miller does in those situations, is just fire the puck.
Well, he fired it all right. and so, again, he's been picking up a few assists here and there, but just been way too long. It can't be this long between goals for him again. So it snapped the 9-game drought, and let's hope that there are more goals for JT Miller. Obviously, the Canucks can use all the offensive contributions they can get from just about anybody right now, but certainly a player like Miller, what he means to this team when he's on. So we'll see if this sparks him now and he can get on a run, finding the back of the net. Yes, they need Jake DeBrusk going, and talk about Brock Besser, but on this night it was more a case of the guys that did score, and I think somebody did the math, 10 different players finding the score sheet, so getting all sorts of contributions through the lineup right down to the goaltender picking up the assist.
Yeah. And I think that Leah D has a question. The NHL needs another identifier on their shift chart. When you have 2 players with the same name next to each other on the list, you have to count the number of shifts to know who is who.
Well,
or you look at the number.
Yeah, they all wear the tracking device,
yeah.
So the data should be, it's biometric. It should, but I will say, when I looked at the final ice time on the box score tonight, and the first number I saw was, my eyes went to Elias Pettersson, and of course it was the defenseman. I was like, 11 minutes, no, and then, but the other Elias Pettersson only played 14 minutes, so the difference wasn't that great. But yes, it has been confusing. It hasn't been all that confusing for the broadcasters. I haven't seen anybody really slip up or run into trouble. The fact that they wear different numbers. The rookie does have E. Pettersson. Not that that's a great distinguisher. But EP40 just has Pettersson on the back of his jersey. But, yeah, they wear different numbers. So, really, they play different positions. I think we're all going to be okay having 2 Elias Petterssons in the lineup. And I think the Vancouver Canucks are pretty happy with what they've seen. Patrick Alvin making an appearance on Prime in the second intermission. Didn't offer up much.
No. He said what we all know, and they asked him about the rumors and things like that, and he kind of said he didn't want to get into it, and they're going to improve their hockey team if they can, and they deem any way necessary. And things have kind of quieted down a little bit since the Buffalo talk, but nothing too much to give there. I do think that something's going to give at some point here in the next little while. It's not for the Canucks' lack of trying. I still think that they are trying to do some stuff and have some stuff on the go. Everything does change with one phone call, as we all know. So whether it's the Buffalo Sabres, whether it's another team, and out there to watch, I definitely think that they're still thinking about making some sort of move here.
Well, and the other thing that we should mention here in closing is they won on a night that wasn't Saturday, unless I'm reading my calendar wrong here. They found a way to win on a weeknight for the first time in a long, long time. They had the 3 straight wins on Saturday nights in Toronto at home to Edmonton, and the other night against the Washington Capitals. But you're not going to make the playoffs if you only win on Saturdays. And so they're branching out a little. And they get the first on this 3-game road trip that, again, will take them to Nashville on Wednesday and into Dallas. Their first look of the season at the Dallas Stars on Friday. And, of course, we'll have rink wides for you after each and every one of those. We were hoping to get the coach, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Around, we heard from a happy Quinn Hughes. That'll be the locker room reaction that we provide for you on this night. Want to thank Jacob and Nick working hard behind the scenes. To you, Irf, we'll do this again
Wednesday.
Do it again on Wednesday. See what that brings. See if they can push the win streak to, 3 whole games. 5-2, the Vancouver Canucks. Back-to-back victories as they knock off the St. Louis Blues by a score of final score of 5-2. For Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver.